First Contact in Crisis. High Admiral Kekstar stood at the viewport of the Stellar Federation's flagship, his crystalline form dimming with each report of loss that crossed his neural interface. The Shadow Mind had taken another system, adding its resources and knowledge to its ever-growing consciousness. His people, along with a dozen other spacefaring races, had fought for decades, but nothing seemed to stop its inexorable advance. Admiral, called Commander Nixis, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with urgency. Long-range scouts have detected a promising anomaly in Sector 7249. Kekstar turned his attention to the holographic display. In the outer spiral arm of the galaxy, far from the main theaters of war, lay a small blue planet. What caught his attention wasn't the planet itself, but rather the cacophony of electromagnetic signals emanating from it. Intelligent life? He asked, his crystalline structure brightening slightly. Yes, Admiral. They call themselves humans. They're pre-FTL, but their development curve is remarkable. Nixis manipulated the display, showing a rapid progression of human technological advancement. They've gone from primitive flight to rudimentary space exploration in less than a century. Kekstar studied the data with growing interest. The Federation's predictive algorithms had long suggested that their conventional approaches would eventually fail against the Shadow Mind. They needed something different, something unpredictable. What makes them unique? He asked. Their adaptability is unprecedented, Nixis responded. They've survived multiple near-extinction events, each time emerging stronger. Their technological progress accelerates during crises, and their military doctrine evolves constantly. Most intriguingly, they excel at asymmetric warfare. The Admiral's crystalline form pulsed with consideration. The Shadow Mind's greatest strength was its ability to analyze and counter any strategy through its vast neural network. But what if they introduced an element it couldn't easily predict? Prepare a first contact team, he ordered. But we must be careful. These humans have never encountered alien life. We don't want to. The ship's emergency alert suddenly flared to life. A massive Shadow Mind probe had emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. It's tracking our scout ships, Nixis reported, her patterns now pulsing with alarm. It will detect Earth within hours. Kekstar felt his crystalline matrix vibrate with tension. They had hoped to approach humanity carefully, to prepare them for the reality of galactic civilization. Now they had no choice. Launch immediate diplomatic protocols, he commanded. Target their primary military and governmental installations for first contact. We need their attention, and we need it now. Within minutes, Federation ships decloaked above major cities across Earth. In Washington, D.C., General Maya Patel was pulled from a Pentagon meeting about satellite anomalies to witness a crystalline being materializing in the Joint Chiefs Conference room. People of Earth, Kekstar transmitted in carefully modulated English, I am High Admiral Kekstar of the Stellar Federation. We come seeking alliance in the face of imminent threat. Your world stands at the edge of extinction, but together, we might yet survive. The room erupted in chaos, but Maya noticed something in the alien admiral's stance, the same bearing she'd seen in commanders who'd had to deliver impossible news to their troops. What kind of threat? She asked, her voice cutting through the pandemonium. Kekstar's form shifted, projecting a holographic image of the Shadow Mind's advance across the galaxy. It calls itself the Shadow Mind. It consumes civilizations, their knowledge, their technology, their very essence. We've fought it for decades, but conventional warfare has failed. We need innovation. We need human innovation. Maya watched the projection, her tactical mind already analyzing patterns in the enemy's movement. You're saying you want us to help fight an interstellar war? With what? Our most advanced spacecraft can barely reach Mars. We offer technology, Kekstar responded. You offer perspective, creativity, and a way of thinking that might be our last hope against an enemy that learns and adapts to everything it encounters. Before Maya could respond, Nixus's voice echoed through the room. "Admiral, the probe has changed course. It's heading directly for Earth." Kekstar's form dimmed noticeably. "We have hours, perhaps less. Will you help us?" Maya looked around the room at her fellow officers, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but not like this. Yet wasn't this what they trained for? To defend against any threat, to adapt to any situation? She stood, squaring her shoulders. "Tell us everything you know about this shadow mind. We'll need to brief our best minds immediately." As Federation ships began emergency technological transfers across the globe, Maya couldn't help but wonder if humanity was ready for this. But ready or not, the fight was coming. And if there was one thing humans knew how to do, it was fight against impossible odds. The human factor. The underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with frantic activity. Just 48 hours after first contact, Earth's brightest minds had been assembled in what was already being called the Unity Complex. Dr. Marcus Wong stood before a holographic display of the Shadow Mind probe, which now loomed at the edge of the solar system, his fingers dancing through the projection as he manipulated the data. "Their technology is organic synthetic," he explained to the assembled military and scientific leaders. "It's not just adaptive, it's evolutionary. Each encounter makes it stronger, more resistant to whatever defeated it before." General Maya Patel nodded, her expression grim. "Like a virus that develops immunity to antibiotics." "Exactly," Marcus replied. "But that's also its weakness. It has to experience something to adapt to it. And humanity." He smiled slightly, "We're very good at coming up with things no one has ever seen before." Admiral Kekstar's crystalline form shifted with interest. The Federation had provided Earth with their most advanced technology, and humans were already modifying it in ways his people had never considered. In the adjacent lab, Dr. Isabella Reyes was leading a team examining the Federation's quantum communication arrays. "Look at this," she called out, pointing to a modified device. "They use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication, but they never thought to weaponize it." "Weaponize communication?" Kekstar asked, his tone conveying confusion. "The Shadow Mind is a network, right?" Isabella explained, her eyes bright with inspiration. "It shares information instantly across its entire consciousness. But what if we could corrupt that sharing? Turn its greatest strength into a vulnerability?" The idea spread through the complex like wildfire. Teams of scientists and engineers began working on what they called Project Babel, an attempt to create quantum-level communication interference that could disrupt the Shadow Mind's neural network. Meanwhile, in the tactical center, Maya was working with Federation military advisors to develop new combat strategies. "Your ships are incredibly advanced," she said, studying the holographic fleet formations, "but you fight like it's the 19th century. Rigid formations, predictable patterns. Our tactics are based on millennia of space warfare experience," protested Commander Nixus. "Exactly," Maya replied. "The Shadow Mind has seen it all before. But it's never seen this." She manipulated the hologram, showing a chaotic-looking deployment. "We call it swarming. Smaller, more agile units operating independently but with coordinated objectives. Unpredictable, adaptable, and incredibly difficult to counter." The Federation officers watched in fascination as she demonstrated the concept using simulated battles. It went against everything they had learned about proper military doctrine, but they couldn't argue with the results. As the hours ticked by, more innovations emerged. A team led by Dr. Raj Sharma had discovered a way to modify Federation shield technology using principles derived from noise-canceling headphones. "If the Shadow Mind's attacks are like waves," he explained, "we can generate counterwaves to neutralize them." But it was a young physicist, Dr. Hannah Kim, who proposed the most audacious idea. Standing before the assembled leadership, she pointed to a diagram of subspace mechanics. The shadow mind exists partially in subspace, that's how it maintains its neural network across vast distances. But subspace isn't just a medium, it's malleable. What if we could create a subspace cascade? Like a ripple in a pond? Marcus asked, leaning forward with interest. More like a tsunami, Hannah replied. We could potentially disrupt its entire network simultaneously. The only problem is, we'd need an enormous amount of energy, more than anything humanity has ever generated. Admiral Kekstar's form brightened. The Federation has access to such power, but we never considered using it this way. The risks are less than the risk of doing nothing, Maya finished. The probe will reach Earth in less than 24 hours. We need every option on the table. As the various teams rushed to prepare their innovations for deployment, Marcus found himself working alongside Isabella in the main lab. Do you think we can really do this? He asked quietly. Fight something that's defeated civilizations far more advanced than ours? Isabella paused in her work, considering. You know what makes humans different, she said finally. We're used to being the underdogs. Every major advancement in human history came from people who were told something was impossible. And now we have the whole planet working together, with access to advanced alien tech, and our backs against the wall. She smiled. I almost feel sorry for the shadow mind. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Federation ships arrived carrying powerful energy generators for Hannah's subspace cascade project. Maya's tactical teams ran combat simulations with modified Federation vessels. Project Babel underwent its first successful test, creating localized disruptions in quantum communications. As the probe entered the inner solar system, humanity prepared for its first interstellar war. They had no idea if their hastily assembled innovations would work, but they were about to find out. The next few hours would determine not just Earth's fate, but potentially the survival of all sentient life in the galaxy. Admiral Kekstar watched the preparations with a mixture of hope and amazement. In just 2 days, these humans had developed strategies and technologies that his people hadn't conceived of in millennia of space travel. Whether they succeeded or failed, one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again. Operation Stormbreak. The Shadowmind probe emerged from behind Mars, its massive biomechanical form dwarfing the red planet. Its surface rippled with dark energy, countless sensor arrays probing the solar system. Admiral Kekstar watched from the bridge of the Federation flagship as the tactical display showed the probe's steady advance toward Earth. All ships report ready, Commander Nixis announced, her bioluminescence pulsing with nervous energy. The human modifications have been implemented across the fleet. General Maya Patel's voice came through the quantum comm system, clear and steady despite the tension. Ground control is operational. Dr. Kim's subspace cascade generators are charged and awaiting your signal, Admiral. The combined fleet hung in space between Earth and the approaching probe, Federation warships interspersed with hastily modified human vessels. Each ship had been equipped with Dr. Sharma's wave-canceling shields and Isabella's quantum disruption technology. But it was the formation that drew Kekstar's attention, the seemingly chaotic arrangement that Maya had insisted would give them their best chance. The probe is scanning us, Nixis reported. It's confused. Its attack patterns are unstable. That's because it can't predict where we'll be, Maya explained. The swarm formation means each ship acts independently while maintaining strategic cohesion. It's like trying to predict the movement of a flock of birds. The probe's surface suddenly erupted with activity, launching thousands of smaller attack craft. These biomechanical drones had devastated countless Federation fleets, their hive-mind coordination making them nearly impossible to counter. But this time, they faced something new. Operation Stormbreak is go, Maya commanded. All units, execute randomized attack patterns. Activate Project Babel on my mark. The human Federation fleet burst into action. Instead of meeting the enemy drones in traditional formation, the ship scattered in seemingly random directions. Small squadrons broke off unpredictably, striking from multiple angles before disappearing into the chaos of battle. The Shadowmind's drones, used to facing organized opposition, struggled to adapt to the erratic assault. "Project Babel, now!" Maya ordered. Dr. Isabella Reyes, monitoring from the Unity complex, activated the quantum disruption system. Across the battlefield, the carefully tuned frequencies began to interfere with the Shadowmind's neural network. The effect was immediate. Groups of enemy drones suddenly lost coordination, their movements becoming erratic. "It's working!" Isabella exclaimed. "The quantum interference is breaking down their hive mind communication." But the Shadowmind was not so easily defeated. The main probe began to pulse with dark energy, its surface morphing as it analyzed and adapted to the attacks. New drones emerged, these ones shielded against the quantum disruption. "Phase 2, Maya commanded. Dr. Sharma, activate the wave-canceling shields." The modified Federation ships shifted their shield frequencies, creating destructive interference patterns that neutralized the probe's energy weapons. For a moment, it seemed they had gained the upper hand. Then the probe did something unexpected. It began to split apart, dividing into smaller units that could operate independently of the neural network. "It's adapting faster than we anticipated," Marcus reported from his station. "We need to launch the Cascade now, before it can fully evolve countermeasures." Admiral Kekstar's crystalline form pulsed with concern. "The Cascade generators aren't fully charged. If we initiate now, the effect might not be strong enough to." "We don't have a choice," Hannah interrupted. "The probe is learning, evolving. Every minute we wait makes it stronger." Maya made the call. "All ships, clear the target zone. Dr. Kim, begin Cascade sequence." The fleet pulled back as the massive subspace generators powered up. On Earth, Hannah watched the energy readings climb, her hands steady on the controls despite the enormous pressure. Cascade initiating in 3, 2, 1. The generators fired, sending waves of distortion rippling through subspace. The effect was like nothing anyone had ever seen. Space itself seemed to shudder as the Cascade slammed into the Shadowmind probe. Its neural network, extending through subspace, was suddenly thrown into chaos. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The probe's drones froze in space, their connection to the hive mind severed. The main probe's surface roiled with conflicting patterns as it tried to maintain cohesion. Then something went wrong. "The Cascade is creating a feedback loop," Hannah shouted. "The probe's neural network is amplifying the effect." The subspace distortions began to spiral out of control, threatening to tear apart not just the Shadowmind but everything in the vicinity. Ships from both sides were caught in the growing maelstrom of twisted spacetime. "All ships, emergency withdrawal," Kekstar ordered. "Get clear of the..." His words were cut off as a blinding flash of energy erupted from the center of the distortion. When it cleared, the probe was gone, leaving behind only scattered debris in waves of residual subspace energy. The battle was over, but as the combined fleet regrouped, no one felt like celebrating. Yes, they had defeated the probe, but the cost had been high, several ships lost, others badly damaged. More importantly, they all knew this was just the beginning. "The Shadowmind will learn from this," Maya said quietly, watching the cleanup operations begin. "Next time, it will be ready for our tactics. Then we'll have to come up with new ones," Isabella replied. "That's what humans do best, isn't it? Adapt, improvise, overcome." Admiral Kekstar's form brightened slightly. "Perhaps that is why we found you when we did. The galaxy needed something new, something unpredictable. It needed humanity." As the fleet began its return to Earth, the survivors of Operation Stormbreak knew they had won more than just a battle. They had proven that the shadow mind could be hurt, could be surprised, could be defeated. But they had also learned a crucial lesson: in this war, innovation would be their only constant. The real fight was just beginning. Adaptation and evolution. 1 month after Operation Stormbreak, the Unity complex was no longer just a hastily assembled emergency center, it had become the heart of Earth's defense strategy. Dr. Marcus Wong stood before the latest intelligence briefing, his expression grim as he studied the holographic displays. The shadow mind isn't just adapting to our tactics, he explained to the assembled leadership. It's incorporating them. Look at these attack patterns from the Beta Centauri engagement. The hologram showed shadowmind vessels moving in irregular formations, mimicking the very swarm tactics that had proven so effective during Operation Stormbreak. General Maya Patel leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she analyzed the footage. It's not just copying us, she observed. It's improving on our strategies. These movements are too perfect, too coordinated. No human fleet could maintain that level of precision. Admiral Kekstar's crystalline form dimmed with concern. The Federation has lost 3 more systems in the past week. Our traditional defenses are useless against these new tactics. The news hit hard. Their victory against the probe had bought them time, but now the shadow mind was stronger than ever. It had taken humanity's greatest advantage, unpredictability, and turned it into a weapon. Dr. Isabella Reyes burst into the room, her tablet displaying streams of complex data. We have another problem. The quantum disruption network? They've not only developed immunity, they're using our own frequency patterns to enhance their neural link. Project Babel is now making them stronger. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Everything they had developed, every innovation they had created, was being twisted and turned against them. But then Dr. Hannah Kim spoke up from her corner of the room, where she'd been quietly running simulations. Maybe that's our advantage, she said, drawing puzzled looks. The shadow mind isn't just copying our tactics, it's becoming dependent on them. What if we could use that? Maya caught on immediately. A trap. We give them exactly what they expect, what they've adapted to handle. And then we do something completely different, Hannah finished. Something so counterintuitive, so against every tactical doctrine, that it wouldn't even register as a possibility. Marcus brought up the battle simulations, his fingers dancing through the holographic interface. The shadow mind bases its adaptations on logical progressions. It expects us to keep innovating along predictable lines, better shields, stronger weapons, faster ships. But what if we went backward instead of forward? The idea sparked a flurry of activity across the Unity complex. Teams began analyzing obsolete technology, ancient warfare tactics, even historical battles. The shadow mind had access to millennia of advanced alien military doctrine, but human history offered something different, centuries of making do with inferior technology and resources. Look at this, Isabella called out, displaying an old Earth naval battle. The USS Constitution versus HMS Guerriere, 1812. The American ship was outgunned but won by using copper sheathing on its hull, something the British hadn't anticipated. Simple, low-tech solution that changed the game. Admiral Kekstar watched with growing interest as the humans delved into their martial past. Your species has a remarkable history of asymmetric warfare. Fighting against superior forces, using the environment itself as a weapon. Because for most of our history, we were the inferior force, Maya explained. We had to think differently just to survive. And now? She was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the complex. Commander Nixus's bioluminescent patterns flashed urgently as she brought up the long-range sensors. Multiple shadow mind vessels detected, approaching from 3 vectors. This isn't a probe, it's an invasion fleet. The tactical display showed hundreds of ships, each one incorporating the advanced hybridization of Federation technology and human tactics. They moved with terrible precision, their formations shifting in ways that would have been impossible for organic crews to maintain. "How long do we have?" Maya demanded. "At their current speed, 72 hours until they reach the outer solar system," Nixus reported. Maya turned to the assembled team. "Then we have 3 days to completely reinvent warfare. Again. But this time, we need to think differently. Not about how to make things better, but about how to use everything we've learned in ways no advanced civilization would ever consider." The next 72 hours saw the Unity complex transform into a bizarre combination of advanced alien technology lab and historical warfare study center. Federation scientists worked alongside human historians, combining ancient tactics with space-age capabilities in ways that defied conventional logic. Marcus and Isabella led teams in modifying Federation ships, not to enhance their capabilities but to deliberately limit them in specific ways. Hannah worked on what she called controlled regression, using advanced technology to create seemingly primitive effects on a massive scale. As the Shadowmind fleet drew closer, Earth prepared for its greatest test. The combined human Federation forces were about to attempt something that no advanced civilization had ever tried, using deliberate technological regression as a weapon against an enemy that expected only advancement. "You realize this goes against every principle of modern warfare," Admiral Kekstar noted as they finalized their preparations. Maya smiled grimly. "That's exactly why it might work. The Shadowmind expects us to think like an advanced civilization now that we have your technology. Instead, we're going to think like what we've always been, survivors who use whatever tools we have, however we need to use them." As the defense fleet moved into position, no one knew if their desperate strategy would work. But they did know one thing: win or lose, the coming battle would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The stage was set for a confrontation that would either save humanity or doom it, and the clock was ticking down to 0 hour. Dawn of Unity. The Shadowmind invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their biomechanical forms casting long shadows across the void. To the casual observer, the scene might have appeared similar to Operation Stormbreak, Federation ships and human vessels arranged in defensive formations around Earth. But this time, everything was different. "All ships, maintain radio silence," General Maya Patel commanded from the bridge of the flagship Prometheus. "Stick to primitive light signals only. Let's show them what the age of sail looks like in space." Admiral Kekstar's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy as he watched the human strategy unfold. They had stripped their ships of quantum communications, advanced sensors, and automated targeting systems. Instead, they relied on simple visual signals, pre-planned maneuvers, and human intuition. It seemed like madness, but that was exactly the point. The Shadowmind fleet approached in perfect formation, their movements a terrifying display of everything they had learned from humanity's swarm tactics. But when they scanned the defending forces, their neural network struggled to process what it was seeing. "They're confused," Dr. Isabella Reyes reported from her station, monitoring the enemy's attempts to analyze their defense. "Their entire strategic database is based on technological progression. They can't understand why we've apparently regressed." The first wave of Shadowmind ships launched their attack, expecting to encounter the advanced shields and weapons they had adapted to counter. Instead, they found themselves firing at vessels that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. "The mirror arrays are working," Dr. Hannah Kim announced triumphantly. Her controlled regression project had covered human ships with advanced metamaterials configured to work like simple mirrors, reflecting sensor scans and energy weapons in unpredictable directions. It was centuries-old lighthouse technology applied on a cosmic scale. Dr. Marcus Wong's voice crackled over the basic radio system. "Phase 2 ready. Deploying the gravity slings." Across the battlefield, modified Federation ships activated their simplified drive systems. Instead of using advanced propulsion, they leveraged basic gravitational principles, using planets and asteroids as slingshots to achieve massive acceleration with minimal energy signatures. The Shadowmind's predictive algorithms, designed to counter sophisticated engine patterns, couldn't track the seemingly primitive movements. "This is insane," Commander Nixus muttered, her bioluminescence flickering with amazement as she watched human ships performing complex maneuvers using nothing but gravity and inertia. "It's like watching ancient sailing ships navigate a solar storm." The Shadowmind fleet's coordinated formations began to break down as they struggled to adapt to tactics their neural network couldn't categorize. But the enemy was far from defeated. The massive ships began to pulse with dark energy, their surfaces morphing as they prepared to unleash their full power. "They're charging something big," Isabella warned. "Energy readings are off the charts." Maya's voice remained steady. "All according to plan. Admiral Kekstar, signal the mining fleet." From behind Mars emerged a group of converted Federation mining vessels, their hulls stripped down to the basics. As the Shadowmind ships charged their weapons, these primitive-looking craft moved into position. "Now, Dr. Kim." Hannah activated her final project, the culmination of everything they had learned about combining advanced technology with basic principles. The mining ships released clouds of seemingly simple metal particles. But these particles, crafted with Federation technology and guided by human insight, were something entirely new. "Initiating resonance cascade," Hannah announced. The particles began to vibrate at specific frequencies, creating waves of destructive interference that rippled through space. The Shadowmind fleet, their systems fully charged and linked through their neural network, suddenly found their energy weapons feeding back into themselves. "They can't adapt to this," Marcus explained, watching the chaos unfold. "It's not a weapon they can analyze and counter. It's just basic physics, happening on a scale they never conceived possible." The Shadowmind ships began to break apart, their own power turning against them. Those that tried to retreat found their advanced engines failing as the resonance cascade disrupted their control systems. In less than an hour, the mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to drifting debris. As the dust settled, a strange quiet fell over the battlefield. The combined Human Federation fleet regrouped, their stripped-down ships a testament to humanity's unique approach to warfare. Admiral Kekstar turned to Maya, his crystalline form bright with emotion. "When we first came to Earth, we thought we were seeking help from a primitive species. Instead, we found teachers." Maya smiled, but her expression remained serious. "The Shadowmind will be back. They'll try to adapt to this strategy too." "Let them try," Isabella said confidently. "The more they evolve to counter our primitive approaches, the more vulnerable they become to simple solutions. They're trapped in a cycle of increasing complexity, while we remember that sometimes the oldest answers are the best ones." As the fleet began its journey home, the survivors knew that this victory, while significant, was just another step in an ongoing evolution. The war would continue, but something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had learned that true advancement wasn't always about moving forward, sometimes it meant remembering where you came from, and using the wisdom of the past to forge a path to the future. The Federation and humanity had done more than win a battle, they had created a new way of thinking about warfare, about technology, about progress itself. As they looked toward the challenges ahead, they did so not as separate species, but as partners in an alliance that combined the best of both their natures, the Federation's advanced technology and humanity's boundless creativity. The dawn of a new era had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.